Accomplices of the Senate have been quelled, Your Honour. Our forces sustained but light casualties.
You have leave to withdraw. One detachment will remain here to guard Draclaw.
My lord.
Do you think they're onto us?
It would seem not. Though this will make our task more difficult still.
That sounds an awful lot like we're not the only ones trying to get into the Draclaw laboratories. But either way, welcome back to part 28 of Final Fantasy XII, where today we'll be trying to do exactly that. Talk around, listen around, and see if we can find any hints as a way to get into the Draclaw laboratories, and then loot and ravage the place and try and get the shard off of Dr. Sid, because he's likely to still be there. And see what fortunes or misfortunes we may find ourselves in once we get there. Certainly took your time getting here, didn't you? Or seen the sights, perhaps? Not likely. Do you know how long it took me to get the chops to get up here? What's that? But I gave Jules some chops. Tisk. A squad of judges has been sent to Draclaw. You find your service entrance rather a difficult proposition, I'm afraid. You're doing, no doubt. You knew how the Ministry of Law would move, so you had Varna collecting chops until the judges could reinforce Draclaw, of course. Tell me, how much did the Ministry pay you for a word with the prodigal son? The Ministry? Oh, judges make poor customers, my friend. Too many rules, too many laws. Perhaps you didn't know, Master Balthier, that Draclaw is a toy box these days, filled with your Lord Father's concerts. All developed without the Senate's knowledge, of course. Why, not even the Emperor knew the full extent of Dr. Sid's operations. Now here's the catch. Since Vane had himself declared dictator, ne'er a peep has come out of the laboratory. I know people would sell their own mum for the merest scrap of information about the goings-on inside Draclaw. People like Rosarian sympathizers worried about the Empire's weapons programs and anyone else who might be opposed to House Solidor's hegemony. So we create a disturbance and you get your windfall of dirt on Draclaw. In exchange for your service, I've spoken to the cabbie. When he asks where you want to go, tell him you know where to go. Simple, no? A deal brokered in true Arcades fashion. Why, it's just like old times, Jules. Brings a tear to my eye. Good to hear, eh? My regards to your Lord Father, Master Fafram. Rather, Master Balthier. Anon. Yeah, Fafram is, I think, what Balthier's judge name was. I think he was Judge Fafram. But either way, if you go up to the cabbie and say you know where to go, you will immediately be taken to the Draclaw laboratories in secret. So this Jules, is he an old friend of yours, Balthier? You two seem close. Close enough for fisticuffs. Drive faster, if you please. I would love to expend any of my violence in the presence and mood of my companion. Sir, yes, sir.
Where to?
Come, this way.
It's too quiet.
Passing strange. There are supposed to be guards here.
Maybe you were just lucky, huh?
Maybe you're just optimistic.
Something may be afoot. We proceed with caution.
No time for caution. Step to it. Sid's chambers are on the top level.
The Draculaur Laboratories is probably the most unnerving location you are likely to visit in this game. And it works very effectively. It's quite unapologetic of its honesty as to what happened here. Dr. Sid is a fucking madman. He's a bit of your generic mad scientist in that sense, but everyone who died here wasn't just because of the invader that we've alluded to. There might be another invader around fighting them, but that's not the reason why there's so many bodies around here. There are other reasons. And it is quite haunting to know such. See, even this guy's begging for help, even though he doesn't know us. Dr. Sid, in all of his own right, is a monster of his own doing, using the general soldiers in the area as test subjects for anything he so desires to experiment on. Dr. Sid is someone that kind of needs to be stopped regardless. Like, he's not... Like, there's a few Final Fantasy games in the series where the person who's treated as the main villain isn't actually the main villain. Kind of like Final Fantasy VII, where Hojo is kind of... If you've played it, you understand that Hojo is the real reason everything goes into motion. He is the real villain. It's just Sephiroth is the one the game treats as the main villain. This one kind of does something quite similar, and it's with Dr. Sid, and to an extent Judge Gabranth, but Judge Gabranth is deeper than that. He's not really... Like, he's a villain, but he's not necessarily like the main antagonist. He's just not necessarily heroic. Like, there's a lot more of a grey area with Gabranth, but Dr. Sid is the ultimate evil in terms of his actions are the one that set a lot of things in this game in motion. Vayne just took advantage of the opportunities given to him because of not only his own actions, but because of Dr. Sid's efforts. No matter which way you go, that the Imperial even warns you to stay away from Dr. Sid, you will eventually find yourself in the CDB over here, where another cutscene will play.
He's had visitors. One's lacking manners by the look of it.
Someone after the Nethicite?
The XII, was it? 6 years, and ever since you got back, this. What madness found you there?
Up above us! Drop bulkheads 5 and 8! Be to it!
They found us.
He's earlier visitors, more like. We should lie low for now.
No, we'll use their confusion. We need to find Sid now.
I guess I should explain, because the game kind of assumes you already know for a lot of this, and the game's mentioned it a lot of times. If you've ever been curious what the game's talking about when it says that area's in Yukt, a Yukt area is just an area that airships physically cannot travel to because something in the atmosphere is making them unable to fly through. In the context of this game, it's the mist. And the reason why everyone was surprised when the Empire flew straight over our heads at the Wraithfall tomb way back when, is because that area is in Yukt, but they were using manufactured Nethicite to get away with it, essentially. The manufactured Nethicite was making some kind of force field or barrier through the mist so they could pass through it safely. But now the main meat of the dungeon is available to us, and this place you can actually kind of get done in about 3-4 minutes if you just go straight for the lifts and straight to where you need to go. The basic puzzle is that there are these bulkhead machines that you can find that change the lights from blue to red and then from red to blue. And depending on what colour is open depends on what colour coded doors are open and what ones of the opposite colour are closed. So in instance, it's the opposite, so the red ones are closed, the blue ones are now open. You're essentially just using this to get more loot than anything else, because if you're just trying to go to the highest floor, which is floor 70, it doesn't take that long. You literally just go to whatever door you need to. If it's blocking the lift, you just find the one that opens the switch, flick it and go up. But there is missable loot in here, so you want to kind of explore it out. There's your first greatsword you can find, well, likely to be the first greatsword you'll find, the Claymore, which greatswords are two-handed swords. So you're sacrificing a second hand to have on anything, but you gain it in power. so can be handy, but I tend to not use them. I know some people love to use them in Final Fantasy XII, but I for one have just never been 100% that keen, especially because all the later ones are holy elemental, and then all the super bosses drain holy, so you're only healing them by hitting them with it, so it kind of even more loses its worth, because to get one more powerful than what the rest of my cast end up getting, I need to be sacrificing what Barsh already has, kind of thing, to get a good two-handed weapon. Like, it wouldn't make sense to do it. The stat boost wouldn't be worth it, I'd just be giving up any evasion. Which, to be fair, doesn't mean so much, because most of the super bosses are ignorant to evasion, so they will always hit you regardless. Because that's the thing, shields don't just add a bit to your defense, they add to your evasion, because you're more likely to block attacks with the shield, so you take 0 damage. But there are certain bosses, and most of the super bosses, that are designed to be ignorant of your evasion stats, so it's pointless to carry a shield. Because it doesn't make enough of a difference, you might as well try and carry either a long-ranged weapon or a two-handed weapon. But then in the super boss's instance, like I said, most of them drain holy. So you get, so like, even for a lot of the super bosses, I end up just keeping the shield on, because it's like, well, they might as well have something in their left hand. I was optimistic that I would stumble into one of the 3 invisible weapons before I started taking on the super bosses properly, but it never happened. And to be fair, like I keep on saying that off screen, like now I've finished the main recording, every now and then I go back to 12 and just grind out trying to get one of the invisible weapons, because if I get one, I will squeeze it in at the very end of the last recording to say, here's one of the extra things you can find. But as it stands, it's not going to happen, because the odds of getting them are just so insane. Well, the odds of getting the invisible chest to spawn are insane, but then the odds of that invisible chest being one of the weapons is only 1%. Unless you're wearing a diamond armlet, which boosts your which boosts rarity of item chances, which boosts it to 5%, but that's still hours you're losing, because you'll enter a room 100 times and it only appear once. Like, it is real bad. And it's annoying because it appears so unoften that you end up doubting yourself sometimes. Like, the one that I'm trying to get is on airship rides. Like, you can get transport ships from any of the main cities if you go to their air docks, essentially. And if you go for leisure travelling, you can explore the ship. If you go up to the highest deck, there's an invisible chest there, potentially. But you'll enter the deck, go look for the, run up the deck, check the chest, run back down, go through the door, go back through the door, check it again, go back through the door, go back through it, and go back into the deck, check it again, through the door, back through it, check it again, rinse and repeat. And you'll get it once, but then it'll feel like you've done it another 50 times and not got another one, and eventually you'll go, do I need to actually finish the cruise ship ride and start up a new one to get another chance? And I don't think you do. It's just the odds of one spawning is insanely low that it's frustrating. Like, you'll be playing it on quad speed but still feel like you're wasting hours before you get any luck. And that's essentially what's been happening with me. Like, I haven't even been manually saving the game anymore. I've been letting the autosave, because you're going through a door every single time. It's autosaving every other second. And I'm still not getting any luck. Also, you might have noticed I detoured to go back to floor 66, but there wasn't that much to find here, so eventually went back up to where we need to go, which is floor 68. I said that Sid himself is on floor 70, the absolute madman. And that was what Balthier was talking about in that cutscene as well. There was a point, at some point earlier, Dr. Sid visited a Yux area because all of them seem to have intensive ancient secrets from an ancient era. And I'm guessing what Balthier's theorizing, that whatever Sid found in there is what led to everything that he has done. All of his scientific abominations, all of his advancements, and his obsession with the shards. And manufactured Nephesite and the war power it's created ever since. And the fact that he seemed to be mumbling to someone. We saw when Gabranth walked past him far earlier in the plot, Dr. Sid was mumbling to someone who didn't exist, seemingly talking to himself. Something happened, and he has gone kinda mad because of it. This room's an odd one. Not only is it littered to the brim with rats, but most of them have got confusion on them, so they just beat each other up. And I was just like, what the fuck? They're lab rats, so it's probably been experimented on, which I guess makes sense, but still, it's kind of like, huh? What happened here? Also, I don't know about you guys, but I want to kind of just deter a little bit, because I don't know if it's my PS4 in particular or what's going on, but I'm having more errors with my voice recording than ever before. Like, I'm having to pause my recordings every 10 to 15 minutes, because otherwise they end up kind of cutting out and I lose them. And it's only started doing it the other day. You know, when I lost my shit at the start of a video, that was the first time it did it, but now it's done it at least once in every part. Like, every part I've gone to record, and I'm not sure what's going on. Like, I don't know if if the machine's just, if my PS4's just getting old, or if something's wrong with my headset, or if something's wrong with my controller, or what. Like, my controller's like disconnecting the mic by itself, it might be causing the error. But I honestly don't know what's going on. Like, I kind of want the PS5 to come out sooner and still have SharePlay support, just so I can try and get away from it. But at the same time, I'm also aware that I've got 100 gigs of recorded footage for Final Fantasy XII sitting on my hard drive, and maybe that has something to do with it as well. To be fair, I might make that a point. After this recording goes out and go live, just go through it, find how far along my recording I've gone, and just cut off everything I've recorded, because I've still got everything from part 1. And I did that deliberately, just in case there's a point later on where I need to remind you or refer to old footage to get a point across. I wanted to keep it, but I've done most of the editing now, and there has never really been an instant like it. There was one where I kinda could have justified it, but at the same time I could explain it easy enough anyway that it didn't really matter. And what doesn't help is that when you render everything together for SHAREfactory, it doesn't replace, it adds to. So you'll have 100 odd gig of Final Fantasy XII raw footage, and then before long I have a few gigs of SHAREfactory rendered stuff, and it picks up, you know? It's not the end of the world, because I have an external hard drive that all my games are on. My saves on actual PS4, but the actual installation of the games themselves on an external, because I've got a 2 terabyte external just to make it so I can carry more stuff easier. But it still doesn't change that the base internal 500 gig that I've got on my PS4 only is going to take so much. It only appreciates so much, and 100 gig plus extra of footage, I can imagine it is a bit grumpy about it. But I say that, can you imagine if I didn't have that? Trying to like play like the new Call of Duty with Callum, or trying to have any of the Final Fantasies installed. Final Fantasy 15 is over 100 gig in of itself. The Final Fantasy VII Remake is already confirmed to be over 100 gigs. It's 2 full Blu-rays. Like, they really, like, I hope the SSD drives in next gen kind of softly address it. Like, I know I'm probably going to end up having to get extensions, and I'm going to be looking at what models and what comes out at the time, because I am saving up, and I'm kind of saving up enough to kind of explode on it a little bit, to just not only make sure I get it, but make sure I get it in a way that will make it survive. But still, it isn't. I'm concerned, because 1 terabyte isn't going to be enough anymore if games are going to be 100 goddamn gig. Like, I think they'll be a little smaller at first because they don't need load space anymore, because SSDs will load them automatically. Like, they won't need extra space in the disk to render loading and things like that, so it will shrink it down a little bit. But a lot of developers, especially in the West, like, you get the odd one in Japan, but more so in the West, really don't understand the term data compression. And it's annoying. They made a new engine for Call of Duty, and I thought this is their opportunity to finally stop the games being well over 100 gigs and running like shit. And then the new Call of Duty comes out, and it's now 160 gigabytes on PS4. And it's on a new engine, hand-built for the current platforms, apparently. If it was hand-built for the current platforms, it should not fucking be 160 gig. The game should barely be 20 gig, if I'm honest. There are better looking games that run more intensive shit for longer with online support that are less than 20 gigs. What the fuck is Call of Duty's excuse? Why do they just want to brick your console? It's not like, say, the Halo Master Chief Collection, where it's got like 7 games on it now. Wait, is it? I mean, let me think. It's got the 4, it's got ODST, and it's got 6 then, not 7. I say that, I probably had Halo Wars at some point, knowing them. Or Halo 5. They'll just put it on them XSX and say, well, we've added Halo 5 to it. which would be a complete waste of resources because Halo 5 was not good. But getting off topic, the Dracula Laboratories, for all intents and purposes, has now been fully explored. So, without any more time to waste, we should be pushing up to floor 70 to try and see if we can stop Sid dead in his tracks from whatever the fuck he's doing, because it can't be good if he's killing his own soldiers to test it. But then saying that, there is still another intruder somewhere around here that we should be checking on looking out for especially. We never know if they might be a threat to us as well.
My apologies. You bear not the stench of Sid's lackeys.
And you are our earlier visitor.
Yes, a valuable man, one I'd sooner not lose. Yet he knows too much.
God, if it's not your first playthrough on the game, this track that's playing right now should be giving you goosebumps, but for no good reason. Because it plays again properly later on in the game, and it is like one of the worst areas in the game. It's a dungeon theme, but it's not this area's dungeon theme. It's just alluding to later on. But if you, instead of pushing up, go around, you can find Guild Toss over here, which is a technique that isn't actually entirely missable. You'll never be able to return the Dracula Laboratories once you're done here, but Guild Toss will be moved elsewhere if you haven't picked it up, so it's not the end of the world for missing it. When you're ready, save and push up to meet the crazy Dr. Sid.
Sid, you know Deifacted Nethicite brought down the Leviathan. How can you persist in this folly?
And you've come here to stop me. I'd fain see you try.
Consider your bones, old man. You're outmatched.
Pirate scum of the skies. What brings you here?
Treasure. What else would a pirate want? We'll take the Dusk Shard.
You've come all this way for that trinket. I thought you were above this. What's that? The Princess of Dalmasca come to visit. She's not entirely without merit. A test of sorts for our princess?
You're a babbling fool.
A trial for a Shelia Banargin Dalmasca!
You lust for the stone's power, do you not?
Lend him not your ears, milady. He means to use you.
Manufactured nethicite, like Bergen.
How could you do this? How could you fall this far?
Boss battle time. It's time to take on Dr. Sid. The first thing you need to know is that if you try and attack him directly, you'll be wasting your time. Those drones, or those rooks as the game calls them, following him will be constantly healing and buffing him, casting things like regen and shell and protect, and even reflect, which is a bit of a bastard, that you need to be on top of and destroy these rooks first if you plan any kind of hope of damaging him effectively. But as once one breaks,
Pity if anything were to happen to them.
Balvir calls him out on it. Says, "Oh, pity if they were to break." Just in case you needed any more subtlety. But if you can destroy them as soon as possible, it'll make the rest of the fight a lot more manageable, because Sid is a pain in the arse otherwise. And it's also the first time that we hear a pretty more intimidating version of the Fighting the Empire boss theme. Because there are two Imperial-based boss themes, one for fighting the judges and one for fighting very important fights within the Empire, like Dr. Sid, and one later on. But this fight isn't too bad once you destroy the robots, because he doesn't have the ability to keep himself strong.
Vana, you shouldn't have. This creature. So this is your Vana? A Shelia Benargin Dalmasca? Just how far will you go for power? Does your lust for Nethicite consume you? Am I right? I am, aren't I? A worthy daughter of the Dynast King. You would do well to go to Giruvegan. Who knows? You may receive a new stone for your trouble.
Your words mean nothing to me!
The reins of history back in the hands of man. I too make for Giruvegan. Give chase if you dare it.
Hate it when he does that.
Mayhaps you think me remiss, the Lady Ash of Dalmasca? The Sky Pirate Rethus, at your employ.
The Imperial Senate, powerless to resist House Solidor's brutal purge, was dissolved. Vayne Solidor reigned supreme over the Empire. Though this upheaval shook the Imperial Bastion to its foundation, these developments were, to say the least, welcomed by her military. The authoritarian rule of the judges, in tandem with the impending threat of Rosarian invasion, served to foster camaraderie among its ranks. For our part, the Resistance mustered strength in the border skies, making ready for the task ahead. A war to decide the doom of Ivalice would soon be upon us.
Squads Flametongue and Ogrenex are away. All ships reporting in. They're breaking to begin ship-to-ship maneuvers against us.
All hands, full ahead flank.
We shall make ready to repel their attacks. Counter-air. Track them as though they were the enemy.
Counter-air, to your stations.
A dispatch from Naldoa Command, Excellency. The Sky Pirate has left Arcadian airspace. He makes for Balfonheim with the Lady Ash and her party.
It is good to know the lady still lives. But what of our bid for the stone?
With the stone or without, our resistance should prove an even match for the Imperial Army. These weeks of training have honed our edge.
I pray 'tis sharp enough.
They choose to supply the resistance, yet raise not a sword in aid. What city could do this?
A city of men without countries, pirates of the sea and of the sky. Few are they who would fain lay down their lives for a friend, let alone a king.
The Marquis. He is set on war?
The time approaches when he must make his position vis-a-vis the Empire clear. When he helped you off the Leviathan, he spited the judges full sore. He cannot sit in idleness and expect to avoid a reckoning. The Marquis shares my distaste for war. Yet, if it comes to it, he will show no quarter.
For the time being, we will continue to train the Resistance army. Enough power on our side, and even Vayne may see the appeal of the treaty table.
Yet Vayne holds the Nethicite. What makes you think he would treat when he holds such power? Power enough to sink the Leviathan.
All the more reason for me to support your infiltration of the capital. You said it yourself. The Nethicite is a powerful weapon. I would have you acquire it for me.
I have not said I would give you the Midlight Shard.
If there is no stone, I would have to look elsewhere for aid.
Then you would ally with Rosaria.
As I must. Failure's not an option.
It's just what Vayne wants. He lures the Rosarians and the Resistance to the field, then crushes both with the Nethicite.
I think not. Cid has a stone. We grab it and smash it to pieces with the Sword of Kings. Vayne will be left holding nary a thing. Time is short. We follow Cid. He's heading towards Giruvegan.
Giruvegan.
It is told of in a song of my people. On the farthest shores of the River of Time, shrouded deep in the roiling mist, the Holy Land sleeps, Giruvegan. Who knows the paths, the way to its doors?
Then you seek the Yogg Defour. Deep within the jungle of Golmore, there is a corner of the Feywood where a mist storm surges and seethes.
And that's it. Let's go.
Right.
Not coming with us? Forget your precious Nethicite already?
Cid's words rang hollow to me. I will follow another course.
Ah, another lead then, is it? You're well informed.
I could well say the same to you, pirate.
Hurry it up, or we'll leave without you.
Ah, Vaughn. I've had some of my men check on this Feywood. Best ask what they've found.
Okay. Thanks for the help, brothers.
Fly first, ask questions later. Your apprentice is more pirate than you.
I don't have an apprentice.
Princess Ash, I would hear your heart. If Dr. Cid has spoke the truth, you may well be rewarded with more Nethicite in Giruvegan. Tell me, do you still desire the stone?
I desire its power. I want, yet I also fear. I must protect Dalmasca. I can't afford to fear anything.
Do not forget Nabudis. That is my only counsel for you.
And with that, we have now just entered the third and final act of the game, after that reading from the Marquis Ondor. Now we're at the port of Balfumheim, an area essentially ruled by Redis, but not necessarily ruled. It's more that he just looks after the place and has helped build it up enough that everyone respects him as a leader. And this place isn't actually too far from Arcades, and where you see how it links, there's a section of the Shooter Uplands to the far east that was blocked off by rocks. Those rocks have now moved, and that path is what would lead you to the Balfumheim port here. But there is some pretty good sweet stuff to buy here, and what's even better is that as you advance the plot, the shops here will actually advance. As you have these people here talk about essentially giving you an idea where you need to be going to try and find Giruvegan, because that is our next objective, as Dr. Cid alluded to. Saying give chase if you dare it, as he is heading to Giruvegan as well. To get there, you're heading back to where we found Fran's village, and south of there is a very bizarre wood that we very temporarily entered in, that I said remember this place for later because it's plot important, it's just too high level for where we are now. That is where I was referring to. You'll now be able to proceed somewhat through it. I say somewhat because the journey to Giruvegan isn't as easy as walking there. There are environmental puzzles and mazes in the environment that will halt your progress at every step if you are not paying attention to the world around you. It's actually kind of interesting. I enjoy it for what it is, but it is an interesting area. But all the shops here are updated over what you had, and it's why I was a bit hesitant to say, like, purchase everything you want at Arcades, because something better is coming soon. This is that something better. And it will advance even more because it will continue to grow as you go through the rest of the plot. Like this shop, let's say all the shops will advance. There's several more hunts for you to pick up as well, which I decided to do now because a handful of them unlock. And these, I believe, are the last handful of side quests No, it's the second to last group of side quests, or hunts even, that you get in the game. Once you have made it to Guravegan, you unlock the last proper set. I say proper set because when you're at the point of no return to get to the final boss, there are a couple extras added, but they're all super bosses, like things they kind of expect you to do post-game. And some of them I'll be doing then and there, but a couple of them I will be doing post-game, because otherwise it'll be way too over-leveled for the final boss, and I already do get a little over-leveled for the final boss. Not too bad, but noticeably. But there's a lot of hunts to pick up here, so let's go around and start doing that as we explore Balthamheim for the rest of this video. The last 3 or so minutes of it. The Quarry Side Court. They're really creative with the name zones sometimes when they want to be, aren't they? I mentioned it before about like the Necra Hole and the like Still Shrine and things like that, but they just like, they spent way too much time just kind of going through it and saying, okay, what names can we get away with? What name would be different? We can't just put it High Street 2. If you go up to this northern section, I think only side quests, like not hunts, actual side quests are tied up here, because it seems kind of random. Like this section's just here and there's places you can go into, but no one really has anything. But because I was only doing side quests that mattered, like for me getting what I want, nothing ever comes to any worth that zone. I never find a reason for it, kind of thing. And I'm sure there is. This street, though, you'll become very familiar with. This shop becomes your go-to for items because they sell everything, and they will get a couple little extras as it goes on to expand on it. You see me just do a quick check over, but that one specific shop you'll be going to often. Any gambits you haven't got, you should really be getting by now. So off screen, I do actually clear off the gambits list, I think, next part. And the magic shop here will have Curager, Blizzaga, Sloga, and Darkga. All 4 of them you really want, but you'll also be adding more as you advance through the plot. There will be a couple extra added later on once we have been to Guravegan, so it is worth the return later. But tier 4 healing magic and then tier 3 everything else. Darkga is fucking amazing to now finally have, because anything that is weak to dark are going to get rinsed because dark magic is so powerful. It's why it's in its own category, it's in Arcane. But everything else, Sloga tries to hit an entire group wide with slow, can save a lot of effort with an army of bats come at you and they've all got haste on. Just grind them all to a halt all of a sudden. And then Blizzaga, I don't really need to explain, do I? Tier 3 ice magic. Wait, for a second I turned back to that guy because I thought he was going to be ducking under the rope and going off screen. But no, he just sat down there for some reason. I just checked back, so I went, well, hang on a minute. I've never seen him like, interact with the environment in that way. But there is a cartographer here that you can buy, one for the port and for the steep, which is the area between the Shooter Uplands and this port. So there is another zone, and it's a big ass zone, but we'll be exploring it as well as other things next time, because our journey to Guravegan will not begin immediately. So, next time on Final Fantasy XII, we'll be side questing a little bit and seeing what little adventures we can find around the place before we push towards Guravegan. But until then, you guys take care now.